Tonight on Her Say, we discuss endometriosis, a condition the World Health Organization says affects 190 million reproductive age women and girls. So what are its causes? What's the diagnosis? What are the symptoms? What is the treatment? That is the conversation, and those are the answers we shall be getting later on in this broadcast when we get to Her Say. But first, the highlights. Three people confirmed dead, over 3,800 families displaced in Mombasa County as heavy rains continue wreaking havoc in the area.
Kwenda kwake aliteleza. Mama aliteleza, kulikuwa ni maji mengi.
This as the search for two KRA officials said to have been swept away by flood waters in Kwale County intensify. The 17 billion oil saga deepens as Busia Senator Okia Omtata now links senior government officials to the deal.
I then challenged Mr. Murkomen, who is a good friend of mine, and I'm challenging Mr. Churchill to come out clean.
This as Kenyan oil marketers refute claims that there was favoritism in awarding oil distribution contracts. And President William Ruto says Kenyans will enjoy cheaper fuel from December.
Mumeona kuanzia mwezi huu hiyo bei imeanza sasa kuteremuka. Mwezi ujao itateremuka zaidi.
As Azimio and Kenya Kwanza leaders lock horns over the cost of living debate.
Mambo ya cost of living. Without dealing with the cost of living, there will be no deal at Bomas. Now, since he also knows he lives in this country. He knows that Magarama Commission is high.
Welcome to the broadcast. We invite you to engage with us on our social media handles at TV47 News on X, TV47 Kenya on Facebook, and my X handle is at Grace Kuria KE. Once again, welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Rora Nyamai, and my name is Grace Kuria Kanja. Now we begin with the flood situation in the country, where Tana River is the most affected county by the raging floods in the coastal region. 3 people have lost their lives in Mombasa County and thousands displaced. This is according to the Coast Regional Commissioner Rhoda Onyancha. And as Elizabeth Atieno kicks us off tonight, the search for 2 missing KRA officials in Kwale County has been intensified.
Mombasa County is mourning the death of 3 people. 2 died in Chuda, while a KCSE candidate was electrocuted in Bangladesh. The 19-year-old girl, who is a student at Kajembe Secondary School, was on her way home when she slipped and fell, and it was while supporting herself on a dangling wire next to a house that had collapsed due to the heavy rains that she was electrocuted.
Wameenda huko kuchukua simu, wanarudi kidogo si kidogo, nikawa naitwa hapa. Kumbe vile walivyoenda, ule mwenzake alipita, yeye kwenda kwake aliteleza. Akawa mama aliteleza, kulikuwa ni maji mengi, akawa anatafuta support ndio hizo waya kushika. Hizo waya zote alishika kwa mikono miwili hivi, huku imeshika na huku imeshika hivi.
The Mombasa County government has set up 31 rescue centers, especially in Bamburi, which made headlines for the better part of Friday after hundreds of residents struggled to reach their homes due to the flooded roads.
But if need be, that there's a need that we have no option except to put a building down, we will have to put a building down. But I want to assure you, in some areas, it is not an issue of a building. It is an issue of a whole township.
Mombasa Governor Sharif Nasir says the county needs at least 30 million Kenya shillings from the national government to cushion the affected families.
We have received 0 funding in regards to El Nino.
This highland is now home to over 230 families displaced from Bandi village in Tana River County. Women are busy making their makeshift homes. Children are walking from one point to another to see if they can get something to eat. For some, the hunger is too much to bear. This woman is a mother of 10. She is preparing black tea for her hungry children. But the cooking is cut short due to the wet firewood. A few hours later, the Kenya Red Cross Society visited the displaced residents with a bag full of goodies, including food and non-food items.
The most affected county in Coast Region is Tana River County, where we've 5,136 households that have been displaced.
I hope and we're optimistic that these people will reside here permanently so that we avoid this issue of every year responding to the same people on floods.
Search and rescue operations by the Kenya Coast Guard and Kenya Navy is underway in Kwale County after 2 employees from the Kenya Revenue Authority were reported missing after their vehicle was swept away by raging floods in River Ramisi.
The past 3 days also, Kwale has been affected across the county, and we have got 681 households that have been affected by the floods, and we've had 3 deaths in Kwale County.
Ino incidence ilianza around saa 2 saa 3 hapo. Kulikuwa na mama kama mnaona ile nyumba pale, kulikuwa na mama hapo alikuwa anakufa. Anapiga manduru ndio wakatoka kwenda kumsaidia kidogo akufe na watoto 2. After hapo wali kuanguka maji ikaanza sasa kukuja hivi sisi na watoto hatuna wazee kwa nyumba, sio wameenda makazi. Tuoke watoto wetu tukua kwa anything kwa nyumba.
Elsewhere, 3 people have drowned in Tiwi, Vanga and Kinango areas in Kwale County. 1 body has since been retrieved. 1 person is allegedly dead after he was electrocuted while cutting trees in Msambweni. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
Thank you, Elizabeth Atieno, for that. And of course, we do condole with those who have lost their loved ones, and keep safe, okay? Remember, the government did confirm that El Nino it is. Let's move on. And Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Coalition and Kenya Kwanza Alliance leaders today locked horns at a burial ceremony in Webuye East, Bungoma County on the high cost of living. Former Defense CS and DAPK party leader Eugene Wamalwa hitting on the Kenya Kwanza government on being tax hungry and pitching Kenyans with high taxation even as the country grapples with its dwindling economy. The Kenya Kwanza Brigade, led by Bungoma Governor Kenneth Lusaka and Bungoma Senator David Wakoli on their part, hit out on the Defense CS, saying he was in government and on the table of making tough decisions when the economy started to go down.
Andrew, where are you? If you have stepped out, anybody who is sitting closer to Andrew, maybe is falling asleep. But here comes, because Professor was putting
mambo ya cost of living. Without dealing with the cost of living, there will be no deal at Bomas. Hiyo tumewacha hadi Jumatano kuwa na mkutano wa mwisho. Tumesikia wenzetu wanasema it is a global problem. There's nothing they can do about it. Nothing can be farther from the truth.
Wananchi wanaumia. And that is the truth. Tuambiane ukweli. Gharama ya maisha iko juu. Usafi wewe unaongea na rais. Dilimas wewe ni mtu ya rais. Let's look for solution. Hawa Kenya wanaumia. And that is the truth. Hiyo ni ukweli na ukweli tu. Mimi naongea kama mtoto wa pasta na mimi siogopi chochote.
Sasa unasema wewe utakuwa unaangalia your head of state. Umetoka mahali mbaya. Kama mchita wa kulia. We cannot pretend gharama ya maisha is high. That is a fact. Na sisi tunafanya kila tuwezana kufanana na Israel. He also knows he lives in this country. He knows that gharama ya maisha is high. But you cannot pretend because you have crossed huko. Sasa msasa kuanza kusema wewe ndio mtetezi.
We are ready and willing to listen to everybody. Ambaye atatupatia suluhu, lakini Eugene Wamalwa, you have got no gravitas to lecture the country about the cost of living, kwa sababu wewe ulikuwa waziri katika serikali na ukarana usingizi ya
chungu. Waswahili pia husema mbu haumi mboni ya jicho. Wetu wamekuwa hapo, walikuwa katika serikali.
And moving on, the UDA party has announced the okay. Let's take that again, right? Now, the UDA party has announced the postponement of its grassroots elections in a statement issued and signed by the party's Secretary General Cleophas Malala. Now, following a National Steering Council meeting held on the 18th November 2023 and chaired by the party leader William Ruto, the United Democratic Alliance Party notified its members and aspirants that the grassroots elections initially scheduled for December the 9th have been postponed. Now, the statement further said that the elections will be staggered into 3 clusters, taking place on the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th of April 2024. A detailed schedule outlining the county clusters will be released in due course, and the aspirants have been encouraged to continue with their registration, which will remain open until 6 p.m. on March 22nd, 2024. And moving on, our section of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya MPs have given the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission a 2-week ultimatum to expose suspects behind the 17 billion oil deal saga and bring them to book. Led by National Assembly Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi, the leaders say Kenyans have the right to know the truth about the government dealings.
I don't know. Juzi kiongozi wetu Mheshimiwa Raila alitoa taarifa thabiti kuhusu hii kafsha ya mafuta na kauliza maswali kadhaa kwa hiyo taarifa yake. Hadi siku ya leo hatujapata majibu ya haya maswali. Na jambo la muhimu ni kwamba Mheshimiwa Raila alisema ya kwamba hii mfumo ya government to government ya kati ya serikali ya Kenya na serikali ya Saudi Arabia na UAE ilikuwa tu njama ya kutafuta njia ya kupora mali ya wananchi. Na tangu siku hiyo hadi ya leo hatujasikia any response kamili kwa haya maswali ambayo aliuliza. Sisi tunapendekeza ya kwamba ile taasisi ambayo inahusika na upelelezi, yani the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, ichukue hatua na ianzishe uchaguzi kabambe. Upelelezi.
Now, security experts in the country say the government should weed out corruption in the police service if the recommendations by the former Chief Justice David Maraga are to succeed. Here now is Emery Kisewa with the answers on the feasibility and the practicality of the reforms.
After more than 10 months of identifying the legal, policy, administrative, institutional and operational constraints on the effective service delivery of the police service, the National Task Force on Police Reforms, led by the former Chief Justice David Maraga, delivered a full report to the President William Ruto earlier this week.
I am directing the relevant organs of government to commence implementation of the various recommendations of the task force.
This has been the culmination of a journey that stretches as far back as 2003, when the first police reform report was released to the public. According to the task force led by Maraga, the performance of the police has been negatively affected by a number of factors such as underfunding, deficient leadership, structural and organizational weaknesses, and corruption.
During the review, it became clear to us, Your Excellency, that the challenges facing the services were not just laws, policies, institutions, and processes, but also leadership gaps in the services.
The question remains, will the recommendations made by the report, which was one of the president's key campaign points, as well as a tenet of the Kenya Kwanza bottom-up economic transformation agenda, succeed? According to Chris Otieno, a security expert, Kenya is at the best place to effect the recommendations.
From where I sit as a consultant, I see a possibility of this one working. Because one of the external factors that have not been able to help us in institutionalizing the reforms that have been proposed for the police force has been the political or other external factors behind the support towards the implementation of these recommendations.
The report advocates for a review of the pay, living conditions, medical cover, housing, and the welfare of the police, as well as institutionalization of a long-term equipment modernization of the force. It also advocates for alignment of the terms of service for the NPS, KPS, and the NYS, the review of the legislative and policy framework in the three forces, as well as a human resource policy that ensures no police officer serves for more than 3 years in the same county. The corruption issue has been a long-lasting problem that has dug its claws into the police force, and according to Otieno, will be dealt with accordingly.
If we have leadership that gives zero tolerance to corruption cases, if we have us sticking to the logos that we see in police stations, these are zero corruption, nil corruption zone. If we see leaders who are able to have strategic implementation of these kinds of initiatives, then we are basically saying that we are taking the right route towards eliminating corruption in the police.
Kisewa Emory, TV47.
Thank you, Kisewa Emery, for that. Now, tonight, the 17 billion shillings oil saga deepens, with Busia Senator Okiya Omtata accusing some cabinet members of engaging in monkey business with the intention to benefit personally. This, as President William Ruto told the nation that the price of fuel will drop next month. Without revealing the new prices, the president, who spoke in Kirinyaga County, said his administration is working out modalities on how to reduce the prices.
The 17 billion shillings oil saga deepened on Saturday, with revelations emerging on what could rock the integrity of the Kenya Kwanza administration. While citing a past Gazette notice dated July 13, 2023, authorizing the withdrawal of 17.2 billion shillings from the consolidated fund to subsidize a private enterprise, Busia Senator Okiya Omtata hit out at Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir and his Rhodes counterpart Kipchumba Murkomen, saying they could be behind the funding and only using businesswoman Anjeri as the face.
I then challenged Mr. Murkomen, who is a good friend of mine, and I'm challenging Mr. Chirchir to come out clean and tell us two things. One, why are they the spokesmen of Galana? Galana is a private company. Njeri is a private entity. Two private entities are fighting over a product. What was the role of the government in that product?
Omtata, in a statement, further says the money was paid to the so-called financial private enterprises in June 2023, after Parliament unconstitutionally approved a supplementary budget of 43.4 billion shillings to conceal the fraud, out of which 5.9 billion shillings approved by Parliament were tinkered with in the ministry's books to a fictitious figure of 20.3 billion shillings, Omtata stating 14.3 billion shillings were unconstitutionally spent.
So my question is, subsidizing private enterprises, first of all, there was a policy of government that subsidies have gone out. So which private enterprise is being subsidized? And then the figure of 17 billion is exactly the same figure of the oil that's coming in.
The back and forth on the oil deals saw three oil firms, Gulf Energy, Galana Energies, and Oryx Energies, rubbish claims by Azimio leader Raila Odinga on the government-to-government deal as a scam meant to rip off Kenyans, saying in a statement, it's entirely untrue, inflammatory, purposefully misleading and is geared to paint the three companies in bad light. The oil firms further dismissed claims they were responsible for the high fuel prices, as they were shielded from paying 30% corporate tax, saying the tax compliance status of the nominated oil companies is easily verifiable through the Kenya Revenue Authority. Meanwhile, while on a tour of Kirinyaga County, President William Ruto has hit the oil pedestal again, where he announced fuel prices will drop next month, a move he attributes to the government-to-government oil importation deal with Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates.
Tukiwa hapa, mimi nataka niwahakikishie, Kenya tunanunua kwa bei ya chini kuliko majirani zetu. Ile mkataba niliweka na wale watu wa Saudia na wale watu wa UAE, saa hizi majirani zetu Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda wanaenda kutafuta vile nilifanya. Kwa sababu vile nilifanya ndio imetusaidia, hatuna matatizo katika masoko yetu na mafuta tuko nayo ya kutosha.
In the new pricing cycle that will remain in effect until the 14th of December midnight, a litre of petrol is currently retailing at 217 shillings per litre, diesel 203 shillings, while kerosene is going for 203 shillings. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo Kamau, for that. Now let's move on. An ancient stone tools discovered in the Great Rift Valley and believed to be between 350,000 to 1 million years old have not only cemented Baringo County's place on the global archaeological map, but also provoked researchers' interest based at local and international institutions of higher learning. Now, our very own Chichi Josephine visited Baringo's fossil excavation sites and tells us of a discovery on the shores of Lake Bogoria. Take a look.
In the heart of the Great Rift Valley lies Baringo, a name derived from the word Amparingo, which means lake in the language of James who live in the area. The Great Rift Valley has long been known as the cradle of mankind, but recent discoveries on the shores of Lake Bogoria suggest it may also be home to innovation and industrialization.
This site, close to Lake Bogoria, we are finding that technology of what they used to make using the stones. Sometimes we are finding points which they would have into sticks to make spears. We are finding blades made of stone that they would have used as knives.
Ancient stone tools discovered here have not only cemented Baringo's place on the global ecological map, but also provoked researchers' interest locally and internationally.
It's evidence that Baringo was a habitat or habituation point for our early ancestors.
The discovery comes after scientists embarked on a fieldwork supported by National Museums of Kenya, Henan Academy of Cultural Relics and Archaeology, and Luoyang Institute of Archaeology, where they established that both technological and biological evolution in this high-elevation locality took place.
The hominids that used to use this, they lived around 200,000 years, and this shows us how now technology has changed. Like whatever I'm holding, it's a flake that is from a core. We have already collected other flakes that were used as knives. Others were used as spears.
Dr. Emmanuel Ndiema, the head of Earth Sciences at National Museums of Kenya, says the field survey is helping researchers collect rock samples which will tell what archaeological culture represented and the exact age of the tools.
This understanding our past in this context, as the way we are studying it, we understand the environment, the technological change, how it has developed over time. And this in itself is a rallying point for us to be able to understand how our early ancestors were able to adapt and develop resilience in terms of technology, in terms of subsistence, and in terms of the different environmental regime.
While indicating that 30 new sites have been mapped out for excavations in Baringo County, Dr. Ndiema states that the ecological discoveries were a boost to the devolved unit that is gearing to attain a top position on the global educational UNESCO Global Geopark.
As you might be aware, there is a big push to have a Baringo County inscribed as a World Geosite. and it's going to be the second in Africa. And that in itself is something that we need to promote.
The excavation of the hand tools is expected to be a boon for the region's tourist potential and up the region to billions of shillings in investments.
This provides a page or a chapter in learning about ourselves. And those pages are important because eventually they attract tourists, because there are people who would want to know where is this technology coming from, who are the ones making this technology. So economically it's good.
In the community here, they get employment, especially the local people around here. We have employed so many people. You see there is like about 10 of them here. They get a job.
The discoveries have helped researchers understand other aspects of how early humans lived here.
I will take the samples in the lab, I will do the processing myself, and now it's even the best. Now that I've been here, I'm able to look at the environment. Like now I can be able to tell what kind of vegetation I'm seeing now. And then I will be able to know the past vegetation that was there. Because there are different factors that lead to the changes.
Baringo County is also home to the fossil of the world's second oldest human ororhyntogenesis, dubbed Millennium Man, which dates back about 6.2 million years.
Baringo is a very unique site because it has a very unique heritage, and part of this documenting this archaeology is very key for us as a National Museums of Kenya.
We know that Kenya has been classified as the cradle of humankind because we have the earliest human ancestors coming from Kenya. And one of the earliest comes from here in Baringo County in the Tugen Hills.
As Kenya tries to trace her history, archaeologists say that this exploration could give a sneak peek into the lives of people who lived here centuries ago. Reporting for TV47 from Marigat in Baringo County, my name is Chichi Josephine.
Thank you, Chichi Josephine, for that. To the world of sports now, and the Kenya national team Harambee Stars has today held their training session in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. Harambee Stars will be looking to register their first win of the group after they were beaten by Gabon in their opening group match. The match is scheduled to be played on the 20th of this month.
On toes, Joanna. Rico. On toes.
And Kenya teams have registered good results in the ongoing Safari Sevens rugby tournament at the RFUEA grounds. Kenya Shujaa won their today's matches after beating South Africa All-Stars, Tropics and Uganda Sevens respectively, while Kenya Lionesses, Kenya Morans and KCB won their respective matches. And Kenya Pipeline ladies volleyball team will play Rwanda Revenue Authority in the finals of Confederation of Africa.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne.
For our first commercial break here on TV47 Weekend Edition. Of course, we come back with her say, and my guests, like you can see, are already with me in studio. Dr. Yamal Patel and Wadhanu Waroi, who shall be joining us after this short commercial break. Remember, our discussion today is on endometriosis, a conversation that you certainly do not want to miss, and it's coming away shortly. Stay with us as we take this break. Our sign language interpreter has been Rhoda Nyamai.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
Toka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Toka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Wajir.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Turukana. Kwa matukio yote yanayojiri katika kaunti hii 012.
Kutoka kaunti nambari 1, kaunti ya Mombasa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Lamu.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka Kisii County.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Machakos.
Kutoka kaunti hii ya Trans Nzoia.
Kaunti 038.
Kutoka gatuzi nambari 029, kaunti ya Nandi, chemichemi ya mabingwa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Kakamega.
Itakuwa nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Bungoma.
Jina langu ni Paula Munio.
Willy Dennis Jiru.
Fabian Kibet.
Mimi ni Hashim Jimal.
Mimi ni Kitio Mika Masai. John Javakiania.
Jina langu ni Abdulaziz Nameka.
Mimi ni Kombo Alfayo.
Jina langu ni Nicholas Mbai.
Isaac Famba.
Mimi ni Wanji Sosti.
Jina langu ni Arnold Adidi.
Jina langu ni Chris Bet.
Jina langu ni Violet Auma.
Na TV47 inapotamba, mimi Sheila Chelangat nitakuwa nikiripotia maswala yanayokuhusu wewe kila kuchao. Every Thursday 7:30 p.m. unapata nafasi kufahamu viongozi mbalimbali kutoka humu nchini, kuanzia wabunge.
Through Changa, we could get money to pay our rent, pay our bills.
When I was growing up, water was a problem where I was born and bred. We wake up at 3 to go and look for water.
Magavana
must be ready to be a tough woman and not a woman to be walked over.
Kwa hivyo
you respect people.
Dari ya mfahamu kiongozi, story na historia, na mi Elizabeth Mutuku.
mirindimo kemkem ya michezo, mahojiano ya kipekee na mabingwa wetu, makala ya kuvutia pamoja na matukio mubashara viwanjani. Shabiki, tutapiga mbizi katika kila kiwanja, ndani na hata nje ya nchi. Mtazamaji, uko tayari? Ni kazi michezoni ama michezo kazini? Ungana nami Ahmed Bahaj, sajili mpya nimefika katika kipindi cha kipekee Mchaka Mchaka. Zitatoka cheche, tutapiga mstari chini yake. Si bora michezo, ni michezo kwa ubora wake. Mcheche.
They say money makes the world go round. So let's slow things down a bit. Put things in perspective. From the markets to the streets to the stocks, we make the complex comprehensible. Join me, Hibak Said, on TV47 Business News for market insights like never before.
What's making the headlines? What does it mean to you? How does it affect you? We answer all these questions every Sunday for half an hour on To The Point Show. Hey, I'm Grace Kuriakanja, and a lot has happened this week. Let's dive into it.
Wanasema wasemao kuwa elimu ni bahari.
Staying with us, time now for her say. And our conversation tonight, like I've said before, is on endometriosis. And my guests again are with me in studio, Dr. Yamal Patel. He is a hysteroscopic and laparoscopic. Oh God, should have seen me rehearse this word. Laparoscopic surgeon, specialist in endometriosis surgery. Karibu sana doc, thanks for coming. And of course, Wadhana Waroi, who is an endometriosis warrior. Karibuni sana, thank you for making time. Now, the statistics are shocking, doc. I'd like to start with you because I said this when we were, at the beginning of this show, and the World Health Organization estimates about 190 million reproductive age women and girls living with endometriosis.
Yes.
That's huge.
It is. 1 in 10 women, to be precise. So 1 in 8 to 1 in 10 women. And that is those that have been diagnosed. So we can say there could be more, but definitely not lesser than that.
1 in 10.
Yes.
Wow. Well, then, this is where I rope you in because I want our viewers to understand your story in regards to our discussion tonight. So take us through it.
So I normally struggle with saying when I got endometriosis. I think for me it's, I started my menses quite early. At around 11 years, I started my menses, but I was only diagnosed in 2017, yeah? So it was a journey through high school, through campus. Whenever I had my periods, I would have to go to the sick bay or I'll have to be taken to the dispensary because of the pain. It was just crippling pain. Yeah, so with time, the pain now, it just moved from being around only during my periods, but then because I had it, and Dr. Amal is the doctor who diagnosed me in 2017, I started now having other symptoms which were related to the endo being on other organs in my body. So half the time you'll find that doctors were actually treating the symptoms or trying to treat the symptoms, but no one actually would tell me, as much as I knew and as much as I was seeing a few specialists through the journey, no one had pinpointed out what the issue was. So by the time I was meeting Dr. Amal, I was mentally at a very bad place. I had even quit my job because I wasn't getting understanding. Because you will say you can't go to work. I can't show up to work for like 2, 3, 4 days sometimes in a month. And people don't understand why, or because you don't look like you're sick, yeah? So yeah, it's been a journey filled with so much pain. But walking through it with Dr. Yamal has led me to a point where I have quality of life. Yeah.
My goodness. And I appreciate you coming and you opening up and talking to us about this. It's definitely not easy, I can tell even from your voice, but I appreciate it so much. So I want to take you back to, you said you started your menses when you were 11 years old.
Yeah.
So is that when this pain, this extreme pain started?
So initially it wasn't extreme pain, other than the fact that it started early. But going into high school, it's when now the pain was crippling. I can attend classes. You can't even study during the time. Just slightly before your periods and when you're on your periods, the flow is quite crazily heavy. The pain is immense. Yeah, so that's high school going all the way to campus and just before I was diagnosed. Yeah.
And I want to know, do I say reaction of your teachers, your high school teachers and your classmates, for instance, because then I would imagine, because there was not much awareness on this condition, people probably did not or refuse to understand what is happening with you.
People don't understand, and sometimes I feel like when people, they don't know about something, then as much as you can talk about it, then there's that lack of awareness. There's really not much they can, I don't know, they could do something, but at my time in high school, my fellow students will actually say she's pretending. I'm having periods, I'm able to attend class, I'm able to do my daily duties. Why is it that when she's on her periods, she's like almost dying? There's that judgment, and sadly for me, I've experienced it a lot from women. Because they're going through the same thing and they want to assume, or rather they assume that your periods should just be equally the same. Yeah, they don't understand that your life is around your periods. Everything that you're doing, whether it's events, everything is, if your period is happening a certain week, you can't put anything there. You can't schedule anything there. Yeah, so it's been tough.
And did that judgment do anything to you, especially because I'm looking at you as a child in the high school, we were kids then, we were children.
Yeah.
And here is the world judging you for something that is beyond you, for something that you cannot control. Did it do anything to you?
Yeah, it does something to you mentally, because you know what you're feeling. You know what the kind of pain that you're dealing with. When you go to the sick bay and the nurse gives you a Panadol, it does nothing to you, yeah? So it affects you mentally. And as I was telling you, getting to a point where I am leaving employment without another job to go to just because of where I am at mentally. And I feel like that was the right thing for me to do then, because then I concentrated on my treatment, sought after doctors, got Dr. Yamal, got diagnosed. So it was somewhat a relief for me. There was some sort of validation. Although at the time I didn't even understand what endometriosis is. For me it was Fuchs. There is a name. There is a name to this thing that's been haunting me, Yeah.
Okay, and I shall come back to you. But Doc, I want us to break down endometriosis, because there's someone, who's watching us right now and probably doesn't even know what we're talking about.
True. So endometriosis, it's a condition that actually is associated with lots of, issues around the female and general reproductive health. It's defined basically when you have the endometrium, which is the lining of the uterus, like cells growing outside the uterus. So it could be growing in the tubes, in the ovaries, behind the uterus, in the surrounding structures like the bowel, the bladder, and it goes as far as every other organ. There's been endometriosis found in the brain, the eyes, in the nose and ear, in the lungs. So it can go anywhere. It's a systemic disease. But more importantly, what is important to understand is it is chronic, it is debilitating over time, it's progressive. It has a bad issue with, therefore, mental issues and family issues. So you've heard, it has lots of implications on even the psychological well-being of a girl and woman as she's growing up. there is a lot of misunderstanding around this disease, so it's often misdiagnosed or missed out as a diagnosis, unless you are seen by somebody who deals with this on a regular basis. Yes. So the main things that surround it is usually pain. And when I say pain, initially the pain might be around period times, and it could be pain with periods, it could be pain during sexual intercourse, it could be pain while passing urine, pain while passing stool. So it has pain-related issues. And then it can get pain during ovulation and then chronic pain, the way she said. It becomes centralized. So when you get centralized pain, it's very difficult because now it's there throughout. Maybe with worsening around period time, but throughout. The second aspect that it deals with is reproductive, which means these women generally suffer from issues with fertility. So many of them may normalize pain, and that's what our society has been doing so far, that you're told by your sister, your friends, your mother, your aunties that, listen, stop being such a sissy, stop behaving like you're the only one who's having periods. We've been through this and we had pain too. But then it's very different when you have endometriosis related pain. So we shouldn't normalize these symptoms. It's better to have it checked out, because if we pick up endometriosis early, and that's where education and this awareness comes in, we might be able to timely manage it. And if we timely manage it, we might be able to therefore control it better than someone in whom it's now involved all these structures, including the rectum, the bladder, infiltrates into the ureters. People lose their kidneys as well. Almost 11 to 15% of women with endometriosis have kidney loss. They go into kidney failure, and then, so it's really a devastating disease.
Right.
So that's second thing about fertility. And yes, there is always a solution out of it, but the sooner you pick it, the sooner you treat it, the better the outcomes.
Yeah.
And the third thing can be psychosocial. So these women have lots of psychosocial issues. Like we have cancer awareness and support groups, this is one of those few conditions where we've had support groups, because these women really suffer, and I've had to deal with many with depression and some with the extent of going to have suicidal tendencies because they just can't take it anymore. And I think that is something we shouldn't allow. So let's give these girls and women a chance to live like a normal woman. That's the whole idea of awareness, education about endometriosis, and proper treatment.
Right. And you've mentioned the diagnosis, you've mentioned management, you've mentioned fertility, and you've mentioned the treatment, and we shall get to that in detail. But Doc, I was surprised in my research because I found out that it has stages. Stage 1 all the way to, I guess, stage 4. I honestly did not know that.
Well, that's the older classification. We today don't stage it in that group anymore because it has not helped us with our management, and it has not helped us with understanding symptoms. What I mean by that is someone with a stage 1 could have extreme symptoms, and someone with a stage 4 with a complete frozen pelvis where everything is just matted and stuck together may still have lesser symptoms than the one with stage 1. And sometimes it infiltrates nerves, and then the pain is just excruciating beyond any control, but it may not be a stage 4 disease. So staging is now phased out. I would say we now do different classifications. So we classify the disease based on where it's involved and how much of it is involved. And so there is something called Enzian classification that we use. And that is the way that we now can stratify someone's extent of disease.
All right, okay. I shall come back to you, Doc. But then I want to take you back to something you said earlier, which is finally it has a name.
Yeah.
You know, this condition that I've been battling for years, finally there is a name for it. And this is where I want you to talk to us about your diagnosis. I mean, clearly it was a relief, you know, when you were diagnosed and you put a name to it, but take us through that.
Okay. So when I was first diagnosed and we did all the tests, the scans, it was pretty bad. I guess that's the time when you were still doing in staging, because I was a stage 4. So my stomach, my small intestines, my pelvic, it was
the ovaries,
my inside was like
rectum,
one big ball.
It was
everything was joined together. And I remember that time I was scared, and I'm really blessed that Dr. Amal is an empathetic doctor, because as much as I had that relief, the relief came first, and then sadness filled me, and I got really emotional in his office, because what he was telling me was not what I was expecting. I did not know how crazy my insides were. Yeah. So we did the first surgery then, got quality of life, and then unfortunately, because of the late diagnosis, it came back. I had to do another surgery in 2019. I am much better right now, only that it's on my bowel again, so we might have to go back soon and just deal with that. But I have somewhat quality of life. I cannot compare my life now to how it was before I had the surgery. Yeah.
But then again, your life, what is it like, having to live with this condition, say on a day-to-day basis? Like you said earlier, when you're planning, say, your schedule, you have to consider this. How is it like?
It's not normal, but I think because I have had to do it almost through my life, it has somewhat become normal, but it has also limited my interactions with people. I keep my family very near to me because they've been very supportive, and I'm blessed to have them. I also have a very small circle of friends, because at the same time, not everyone understands when you say you keep on canceling on events or on meetups or stuff like that because you're unwell. Not everyone understands. Some people might take offense, but I am blessed to have a group of few people who have been understanding and are like my pillars of strength when my walls are crumbling. Yeah.
Right. Now, Doc, you mentioned painful intercourse, as one of the signs or the symptoms of this condition. And I'm asking this because I know you're here in your capacity, as an endometriosis surgeon and hysteroscopic and laparoscopic surgeon, Doc. But that bit by itself, the painful intercourse, is bound to affect many relationships, especially when the man does not understand, kwani it's only you who feels this excruciating pain here. So what is it that you wish the men would know, and yourself being a man? And this is also part of awareness, it should be. I
think very rightly said, and I think it should come out very clear. I would say not less than 50 to 60% of my patients with endometriosis have family issues. And this is probably the main reason. Once, twice, thrice, someone might understand. But after that, unless they are aware of what's going on, they don't want to understand. When the woman is trying to just shove them away and say, no, I'm not ready. No, I'm afraid. No. I mean, it eventually breaks families. And that's exactly what I would like to tell the men out there, that when that lady is saying no because of pain, I think let's look at it differently. There must be a reason that she's doing so. I don't think she's in that relationship to come and just say no. So endometriosis in that situation is usually the type that we would call deep infiltrative. There are 3 varieties. One is ovarian, one is superficial, and one is deep infiltrative, which is the most extensive and bad kind. So this deep infiltrative, if it is anywhere near the upper area of the vagina, I would say that this woman would definitely experience extreme pain every time she's trying to have intercourse. And it's deep pain. It's not the entrance pain. It's not superficial, it's deep pain. So when that happens, I would urge these couples to come and have a checkup and say, listen, this is what happens. Could you please check? And I can tell you for a fact, when they go to routine doctors and routine scan places, it will never be picked up. So you see, they'll always come back with a report saying normal, and here is this woman really in pain, in agony, and refusing even sexual intercourse. So that's where the problem starts, because there is no one who's picked it up. So I would say they need to have it checked with an expert or a center that deals with this, pick up where the problem is, and then comes the journey of the solution.
How exactly is this diagnosis made?
So there are no blood tests to pick this up. So it's basically a clinical diagnosis, and it's basically a diagnosis of imaging. The best imaging modality today to pick up this disease would be an ultrasound diagnosis, which is preferably done transvaginally. So if a woman is already active sexually, we can do the transvaginal scan. If not, then they sometimes do transabdominal, but that's not accurate enough. And in those cases, then an MRI of the pelvis could help. So the diagnostic modality of choice is a transvaginal scan, ultrasound, and preferably done by someone who understands endometriosis, not even just by normal radiologists or sonographers who may not understand the clinical aspect of the disease. So it's clinical exam, history taking, and the ultrasound.
How about the causes?
The
causes of endometriosis.
The cause?
Yes.
Well, I would say that this is a very complex disease. It's actually even called in some places a disease of theories. What we mean by that is there's so many these theories postulated as to why it happens. None of them answers all the questions, and none of them is wrong in itself. So when there are 5, 6, 7 postulated theories all saying this could be because of this, we could answer one patient's symptoms with one of the theories, but then when you go to this other one, you'll be like, no, but that doesn't explain why she should have gotten it. So there's tissue injury and repair, there's retrograde menstruation, there's coelomic metaplasia. There's so many different theories, medically speaking, but none of them answers. So it's not genetic. So you can't say that.
I wanted us to get.
Yes, it's not genetic, but we have seen many situations where 2 sisters have it, and where a mother had it and now the daughter has had it. But I don't think it's genetic. It's just by coincidence that yes, these 2 developed it. So we can say there is some sort of relation between blood relations. But we don't have a theory that explains why it should happen, because we've even seen 2 sisters totally different. But we've also seen 2 sisters having similar extensive disease. Take this example. I mean, I don't think we have a similar situation with her. All right? So there's no genetic predisposition per se.
Right. Watano, based on what Doc here has said, I want to ask a question that most of us sometimes ask when we're faced by, circumstances and situations that we deem unfair. Why me? Have you ever asked that?
A million times. A million times. Especially when I was going through the most in terms of pain. And as much as I ask myself that question, there's something my mom keeps on saying, is that because you're strong. She says because I'm strong. I don't think I'm strong.
I think you are. I'm telling you by the fact that you're here tonight.
Yeah.
You clearly are.
Yeah, so I do ask myself that a lot. But as I said earlier, I have a very good support system. I have a very empathetic doctor. I have a family that would move to the moon to help me figure it out. Even when I was having my first surgery, I remember I said I was out of a job. I didn't have any insurance at that time, but they made sure I got the surgery that I needed. So I think to answer myself that same question, I am doing it through trying to create awareness on the same, hoping that someone else can who has the same symptoms that I had or was experiencing can hear this and so seek the help that they need.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Most definitely. Right. And my director, Kevin, tells me it's time for a break. So let's take that break. Stay with us. We come back with this conversation on endometriosis.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for. That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the home of Untold Stories.
Katika majengo haya, hapa ndipo sheria zinapotungwa na zinapopakuliwa. Nitakuletea viongozi mbalimbali, mirengo mbalimbali, wote kwa pamoja wakipika na kupakua. Tutawapa nafasi kuweza kuangazia changamoto na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea.
Toka eneo hili la Naivasha kwenye kaunti 032, gatuzi la Nakuru.
Kutoka kaunti ya Elgeyo Marakwet, kaunti 028.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Wajir.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Turkana. Kwa matukio yote yanayojiri katika kaunti hii 012.
Kutoka kaunti nambari 1, kaunti ya Mombasa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Lamu.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka Kisii County.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Machakos.
Kutoka kaunti hii ya Trans Nzoia.
Kaunti 038.
Kutoka gatuzi nambari 029, kaunti ya Nandi, chemichemi ya mabingwa.
Nikiripotia TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Kakamega.
Itakuwa nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka kaunti ya Bungoma.
Jina langu ni Paula Munio.
Willy Dennis Njiru.
Fabian Kibet.
Mimi ni Hashim Jimal.
Mimi ni Kitio Mika Masai. John Javakiania.
Jina langu ni Abdulaziz Nameka.
Mimi ni Kombo Alfayo.
Jina langu ni Nicholas Mbai.
Isaac Famba.
Mimi ni Wanji Sosti.
Jina langu ni Arnold Adidi.
Jina langu ni Chris Bet.
Jina langu ni Violet Auma.
Na TV47 inapotamba, mimi Sheila Chelangat nitakuwa nikiripotia maswala yanayokuhusu wewe kila kuchao. Every Thursday 7:30 p.m. unapata nafasi kufahamu viongozi mbalimbali kutoka humu nchini, kuanzia wabunge.
Through Changa, we could get money to pay our rent, to pay our bills.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the conversation we've been having with Dr. Yamal Patel, who is a specialist in endometriosis surgery, and of course, Wadan Warui, an endometriosis warrior. Thank you so much once again for coming and for this conversation that we've been having thus far. And Doc, I want to come back with you and talk about something that we've been discussing over the break, because we did establish that there's nothing we can put or we can point at as a cause for endometriosis, but like you were telling us, there are risk factors.
Yes. So risk factors is different from causative agents. A causative agent is a factor that we know you do this, you get this.
Right.
A risk factor is you have this, you may or may not get this. So there are some risk factors that are known or to be related to endometriosis. One of them is early menarche. So with environmental changes and some of these our preservative and these fast foods and all that stuff, you've seen that many girls are now getting periods much earlier than they used to.
That's true.
That's one of the risk factors. All right. Second thing is delayed periods. Delayed menopause. So you have a much longer period of the time that you get your menstrual cycle is a risk factor. A delay in initial childbearing. So if a woman gets her first child at a much earlier age, then pregnancy happens to be a protective effect. So if you'll realize that our mothers and grandmothers had less of this disease because two things. One, they used to start getting children earlier, and two, they used to get many children. And when that happened, then they would, in a way, have very small periods when they were getting their menses, because you're not having periods for 9 months, then you're breastfeeding, you're not having periods. By the time you're having to get some period, you're on some contraceptive that again may stop your periods, and then you have your second pregnancy. So you're delaying or you're avoiding the period phase. So that used to protect them. So these are some of the risk factors. Another risk factor is repeated uterine or pelvic surgeries. Any injury in that system can cause related endometriosis-like symptoms. Or there's something else called adenomyosis, which is also related, where the same tissue is growing now in the muscle as opposed to outside the uterus. And they are both related. They are like sister diseases, but they both have implications that are similar, pain-wise, heavy flow-wise, fertility-wise, so they could have impact on them. So repeated uterine surgeries or some uterine surgeries would be a risk factor. So this is how even repeated deliveries can be a risk factor for adenomyosis, not endometriosis. So these are some of the risk factors.
Right. Okay. And Doc, I want us to talk about something that is close to many women, not all, but the whole issue on infertility or subfertility, like I was once told to not call it infertility, but subfertility. Does endometriosis cause it?
Without a doubt.
It does.
It has a major implication on fertility. And again, it depends on the extent of the disease, that it causes infertility with different mechanisms. We're not going into that theory right now, but it has impact on fertility and major impact on fertility, but there is a solution to it. So you deal with endometriosis, you correct it either medically or surgically, and you would see a big difference in these women, and they'll have their children.
That's where I wanted us to get to.
Yeah, but as I've said, the earlier the better. Because this disease is something that causes a lot of adhesions, I told you, of all the structures together. The moment the tubes get adherent into it, then you have a problem. They get swollen, they have fluid in it, it's called hydrosalpinx. Then those tubes are damaged, they are gone, so getting pregnant naturally becomes close to impossible. But now there is the IVF route that is still there. So basically, there is a solution to it, but when you get it handled early, the solutions are easier. When you get handled later, the solutions also become more complex.
I think like is with any other condition, yeah? But bottom line is one can still get pregnant.
Can and should. Can and should. I don't think there is any woman that we should be able to strike out and say, you cannot get pregnant. So it affects also the ovarian reserve. So when you have endometriosis, your ovarian egg reserve drops much faster than in a woman who doesn't have. So if I look at the egg amount and quality of a woman without endometriosis at 30 and the one with endometriosis at 30, it will be very different. So it means your time span is also shorter. So you can't wait too long to say, oh, I'm only 34, 35. No, there is a difference if you have endometriosis and when you don't have endometriosis.
Sure. Watanu, I want to ask something that I think is intrusive, and I like to say that you are free to let me know, to skip, to pass if it's too intrusive. But because we're on this subject of subfertility, my assumption would be that prior to getting the diagnosis, you probably Googled, about this condition, and everything that Doc here is talking about, you've probably seen it online, and particularly this whole bit on subfertility, which Doc tells us it's not cast in stone, it's not the end. I mean, when you Googled and saw that it could cause subfertility, was there any, say, fear in you as a woman? Because like I said, some women, most women really value this whole fertility thing and getting children. Not all, not everybody wants to have a child, but this society of ours assumes that everyone wants it. But what was it like, or how was it like for you?
I was scared. Terrified, actually, because I love kids. Like, my nephews are my life. I love children a lot. And through my journey with Dr. Yamal, we've had these conversations so many times, especially after my second surgery, where some parts of my reproductive system had to come out because of how much they had been affected by the endo. I think for me, what has worked in terms of just getting over that fear and getting to a point where I am right now, that I feel very blessed regardless. I know when my time comes, I'll get that baby. But I've lost my train of thought.
Don't worry. Take your time, breathe in, breathe out, water. It's okay, it's fine.
Yeah, so it is, and the way Dr. Amal has put it, in terms of sometimes homes and families being affected by people maybe not wanting to understand what someone is going through. I have had a relationship affected in the same way, because by the time I was being diagnosed in 2017, I was in a relationship with someone I thought I will be with, but that didn't work out. And in my heart, I do know that contributed to the relationship to the relationship ending. So, yeah.
Okay. And I'm glad that you brought up the relationship topic, because I was headed there.
Yeah.
And again, intrusive, you're free to pass, but what place are you at right now in terms of relationships? Say, are you in one? Have you had this conversation with your partner? Is it a fear that you have, say, in your next relationship? Where are you at with this?
I'm not ready to be in a committed relationship. I feel like my last relationship sort of messed me up. And then now I am very guarded in terms of who I let in and who I have this conversation with, intimately. So at this point, I don't think I am at a mental state where I want to be in a relationship and a committed relationship. Unless down the line I find someone, or I meet someone who is understanding, empathetic, someone who's ready to walk through the journey, because it's a journey. It's a long journey that is uncertain, sometimes with bad news every single time you go for your checkup. So I will need to have someone who is ready to be understanding and be empathetic. Yeah.
All right. We'll take that. Let's end that there. Okay, Doc. I want to ask something that I think we should have started with. When we kicked off this conversation, because there's period pain, and in fact, is period pain normal?
Period pain should not be normalized, but there are situations where a girl can get pains during periods, and this is worded medically as dysmenorrhea. So there are two types of dysmenorrhea, primary and secondary. So it's the primary one that we are not usually worried about. It's never extreme, and it's usually not due to any cause. That's why it's called primary. And it is usually the type that you may hear some women describe as, that's what I used to have, and then I got my first child and my pain went away. So that's usually primary. And usually given some hormonal treatment, we can differentiate whether it's primary and secondary. And obviously the second one is that this one keeps on progressively worsening. And then there's secondary, which is now due to some cause, and one of the causes is endometriosis. It's not always endometriosis. So period pain should not be equalized to endometriosis. But I say period pain should not be normalized. Period pain should be checked, and let us as the experts decide and tell you whether this is something you can manage and live with, it will settle down, or this is due to this, or this is possibly due to endometriosis. So it's one of the causes.
All right. Let's talk about something you mentioned earlier, the management. I mean, how does one live with this condition?
Right. So number one, endometriosis management is multimodal and should be multidisciplinary. So the lead of an endometriosis management team should be a gynecologist who understands and can handle endometriosis on all aspects, right from diagnosing it, to medically managing it when needed, to surgically correcting it if needed. So in management, we have the medical options, we have lifestyle options, we have some natural options people have tried. Cumin is some food that we have in India. It's good with cumin. Cumin has been found to be helpful. So there are some dietary advice that we would give people to try. Then there's medical, which is hormonal, and then there's the painkillers. So in hormonal, we have a variety of things that people have tried. And then we have what is called the surgical management. Now that's where it's very important, because what happens is this is not simple surgery. It's one of the most complex surgeries to the extent that some people say, or most people say, it's more complex than cancer surgery, because everything just gets stuck together. And when you are trying to handle that kind of a scenario, you have a very high risk of getting complications. And it's because of this that you will hear very many women coming and telling you they've had repeated surgeries. Most women will have repeated surgeries. So our dictum number one is early diagnosis would help. Two, multimodal treatment would help, and multidisciplinary. Number three, referral to endometriosis experts and centers would help. Number four, the first surgery should be the best surgery and preferably the only surgery. So if we are going the surgical route, which is done for specific reasons, I didn't say every endometriosis patient needs surgery. Yes. But if we are going that route, then the first surgery should be the best surgery and the only surgery.
How do you specialists ensure that happens?
But that's what the whole difficulty is. So I think with correct guidelines and with correct referral systems, if they all land up into centers that deal with endometriosis, then we can handle that. Because if it's not done that way, then someone does the surgery and then after a while the patient is still back with the same symptoms, and they say it's recurrence, but sometimes it's recurrence, but sometimes it's just residual disease. It's disease that never actually came out. So it's because it's in such intricate places and next to such vital structures that people don't go and touch those areas. So you leave it behind. You leave the patient in the same scenario as she was after a few months. So this is what I was saying, that it should be done with an endometriosis expert in an endometriosis center, with a multidisciplinary team, which includes a colorectal surgeon, a urology surgeon, a nurse specialist, a pain specialist, a psychiatrist or psychologist, a physiotherapist. So this is what a an endometriosis center entails. Now, if it's done in that kind of a scenario, I think the outcomes are much better.
Right. Watano, on the back of that, let's talk management. How has it been for you managing this condition?
So I have had 2 surgeries before, and then I've also gone through the hormonal treatment. And the hormonal treatment is where I used to say I'm in menopause because the hormonal treatment, you go through it like someone who's in menopause. And one thing I learned from that is to extend grace to our mothers going through menopause, because I nearly lost my mind. It's crazy. And then definitely the pain, the management of the pain through medication and all that. Yeah.
The cumin that Doc mentioned?
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Doc, let's talk about misdiagnosis, which is pretty much what you were saying as you responded to the question on management, because in my research, I learned that appendicitis is a common misdiagnosis for women with endo.
True, very true. Appendicitis is one of them. Bladder issues, interstitial cystitis is one of them. Irritable bowel syndrome is one of them. So there are so many of these things that someone will always be told about in a woman who has actually endometriosis, but is diagnosed and treated for so long without. So the statistics say, and this is worldwide, it doesn't matter whether we are in Kenya or in the first world country, the mean period from initial presentation of a girl with endometriosis to the doctor for some related symptom to a diagnosis, definitive diagnosis of endometriosis is actually 7 to 10 years. Now, with awareness and education, this is exactly what I'm trying to narrow down.
Sure.
So if we pick it up early, we pick it up at a milder stage, we pick it up at a more manageable scenario, and we can let these women and girls live a near normal life, not have issues with relationships, not have issues at workplaces and schools and colleges. So I think that's the goal of the whole idea. One more thing, I think, when we are discussing management, I mean, if and this is categorical, I'm very categorical. If a surgery has to be done, then in the past, people used to do what is called ablation surgery, which means go and burn the tissue and burn what you see as endometriosis. It's no longer acceptable. The treatment of choice should be the word we use, excision surgery. So what is excision surgery? It's like if you see a nodule, you have to go and cut it out in totality. So the reason ablation never works is when you see a small lesion out here, it's like a tip of an iceberg. What is behind there would be that big. And you would burn the tip there and think you're done with it. But you're leaving the whole disease inside. So one very important message out to patients is please try and discuss excision surgery with your doctors. That's what is recommended.
And because you said if surgery is really necessary, that begs the question, when does one really have to have surgery?
All right. So management of endometriosis, once a diagnosis is made, is based on, it's preference based. So what do I mean by preference based? There is no standard treatment that we can roll out for every single endometriosis patient. If a patient's main symptomatology is fertility, we direct our treatment to fertility, okay? And we have from medications to including artificial reproductive therapies and including IVF as an option in that direction. So we could do that without surgery as option one for such a woman. The woman who comes and presents with pain, and it's extreme that it's now affecting her day-to-day life and quality of life. So quality of life and day-to-day effect due to pain-related symptoms, And if we are examining her, there are obvious nodules. Nodules are like fibrotic lesions of endometriosis in different places of the pelvis. They will not respond to medication. So it doesn't matter how much medication I give these women, it's only temporary. Eventually, they may need those nodules removed. So quality of life, pain-related symptoms with obvious big nodules may need surgical intervention. Pain symptoms, but no obvious nodules, so it could be superficial or early stage disease. Medical management is enough. We suppress it medically. So not all women require surgery, by the way. But when they do, I said two things. One, excision surgery. Two, preferably by an endometriosis team that can handle every aspect of it.
And because we have already established there is no causative agent to endometriosis, but we did say there were risk factors, which we talked about. Does this mean there is no way to prevent endometriosis? So
prevention is a topic that we can discuss as possible and also not possible. What I mean by that statement is, number one, there is no sure short way of saying do this and you'll never get endometriosis. But some hormonal treatment, okay, or contraceptives for that matter, are known to suppress endometriosis. So once a woman is active and is now going into hormonal, maybe is going into family planning options, there are some hormonal options that would suppress endometriosis from growing. So these are options that we could discuss. So someone with painful periods, requiring contraceptive advice because they are not ready yet to conceive, we could consider these options as options to suppress it.
Right. Now, Wadhanu, we did say that there are about 190 million women and girls of reproductive age with this condition. That is according to WHO. And Doc here said the number could even be more because of those who are yet to be diagnosed. I mean, what would you want them to know, those women and girls that are probably watching you right now and living with this condition?
I think I would tell them, let's keep self-advocating in terms of the treatment choices, in terms of seeking second opinions if you need it. Because I feel like for myself, had I really pushed before I was diagnosed, because I was seeing different specialists, I was seeing them for different reasons. Each was because of a symptom that I had. Had I pushed, because I was even telling Doc the other day that at one point I told a doctor that I feel like when I'm almost going to have my periods, that's when my back is killing me, or I'm having pain in my pelvis, and the doctor clearly told me it's not relatable. And had I pushed harder, because I knew what I was feeling, but because he seemed as a person with authority, I didn't push beyond him saying it can't be that. So for me, I'll just like to tell girls to just keep advocating for yourself. You understand your body than anyone else. You know what you're feeling. And you are not mad. It's there. If you're feeling it, it's there. So just keep pushing to get the right treatment.
Right.
Yeah.
And Doc, as we wrap up, I want to ask a question that I got from one of our viewers, because, you know, we always put it out that we're having this conversation tonight. And someone asked I actually wrote it down so that I don't miss it. What happens if endometriosis is left untreated?
So if it is endometriosis that I labeled as deep infiltrative endometriosis, which is the worst kind, so two things. One, it is progressive. And two, because it involves structures around the reproductive organ, you have to understand that there are many structures there. There is the bladder in front, there is the ureters on the side, which actually bring the urine from the kidney to the bladder, and there is intestines behind and above. So when it starts extending into those structures, now you'll get more issues related to them. So when it goes and involves the ureters, it compresses them and you can lose your kidney. When it goes and involves the rectum, it obstructs them, and it reaches a point these women actually cannot pass stool or they get obstruction. Now that is life-threatening, all right? If it goes into the bladder, it's now starting to bleed into the urine and obstructing. So when it goes into these surrounding structures, if it involves the nerves, that's now a totally different ball game. They are not even going to be able to walk. We have had patients who've gone into some sort of paralysis of some sort because the nodule compresses on some of the nerves and they can't move their leg now. They're paralyzed because of that. So untreated endometriosis is not something you want to wait for.
That's true.
Once diagnosed, once told you have endometriosis, do something about it would be my say.
Most definitely. And we need to wrap up now, so I'll give both of you 30 seconds each to get your closing remarks. Wadhano, I want to start with you.
Thank you, Grace. If you're feeling or are experiencing or know someone who's dealing with these things, the pain, whatever Doc has described, whatever I've talked about, please seek help. Reach out to, even if it's Dr. Amal, they have a program that is very helpful. It's called laparoscopy mashinani, which also helps people who are not able to afford, because the treatment for endo is really expensive. Most insurance companies do not cover for it. So just seek help where you can, and more so I direct people towards Dr. Amal because they have the resources, the multidisciplinary functions. So yeah.
Everything he was saying.
Everything he was saying.
Dr. Amal, you get the last say.
Thank you, Grace. Endometriosis is not a death sentence, number one. Number two, awareness and education will make us pick it up early. Number three, pain is not normal. So don't normalize it, have it checked out. Number four, have referrals to a center that deals with it. We have our referral center called Third Park Hospital, which is actually an endometriosis multidisciplinary center with all the available options. And we also have Laparoscopy Mashinani, which is a trust that I'm part of. And we actually help women in the Mashinani with laparoscopic procedures for endometriosis. Number four, excision surgery when necessary, but surgery is not always necessary. Number five, fertility is definitely something they all should aspire for and they will get. Number six, all women, you need to get your good quality of life. Don't take it lying down. Have it diagnosed and treated. Thank you.
You've summed it up so well, and a great place to end it. Thank you so much, Dr. Yamal Patel.